Why do we need separate continuum for behavior and attendance?
So I would say that the reason is actually the same as we have a continuum of supports for anything else. And that is, this is how we identify how we provide support for students. And so we want to be able to do that in every area that is of concern. And let's think about this, Jen, for a minute. Whenever we ask a teacher, what is your primary concern at this point in time in your classroom? Where does it almost always start?
I can't get them to cooperate, or I can't teach them because they're not here.
Yeah, yeah. There's both of them always start in any time that you talk with a teacher. It's usually that concern around behavior is first and foremost. It's most pressing on their mind, and it's most disruptive to the overall learning, which causes teachers great concern. So first of all, yes, you're right that we don't often identify behavior or attendance as those overarching goals that are impacted from the district to the school to what's happening in classrooms. But we do know that behavior and attendance have significant influence and impact on a student's ability to learn and to engage. So we want to be able to make sure that we are attending to those pieces as well. And again, it's the same reason that we develop a continuum around reading. It's identifying practices that we know are successful in developing good readers. We're going to name all of the things that we do to support learners in that area. Same thing that we do for behavior or for attendance is that we're going to really look at what are some of the things that we can do to be able to support students who are struggling in those particular areas. But Jen, there is one extra step. So when we think about developing a continuum of supports in, again, let's say reading, then we would bring our staff together. We give them lots of sticky notes, and then we start this conversation simply, and this is a big, messy conversation, but it's a great conversation. We start with, what do you do when a student struggles in reading? And we begin by having teachers name all of the strategies that they use to support a student when they are teaching them how to read. Of course, you end up with lots and lots and lots of sticky notes because every teacher creates their own. And then you take the next step to be able to say, okay, so now we are going to name all of those strategies or determine where they fit on our continuum. Are they fitting within that overall practice within the classroom, which is tier 1? Are they strategies that we use for some students some of the time? Are they school-wide supports, which might be interventions if you're talking about reading? And then more individualized, what are some things that we need to do for specific students who have more intensive needs? So we begin to put those into those 4 categories. And in a school gym, we have 4 walls. We put the sticky notes on each wall. Usually we don't have a whole lot for tier 4 or tier 3, but tons show up in tier 1 and tier 2. And the beauty of developing this continuum in this way is that everyone's thoughts are represented, because each individual person who is engaging in this is writing down their own ideas. And then when we put them up on the wall, we group them. So if there are common strategies, we're asking teachers to pile them up all together. And if they're individual strategies, that's okay. They rest on their own. It's such a great visual representation of what's happening in the school. You step back and you take a look and see this is a common practice that most of our teachers are doing across the school, and that's fantastic. Identifies some of those core principles that are important across the school. and however they have learned them, it doesn't matter. And then it also identifies that there are some singular strategies that perhaps are unique, or perhaps we haven't, some teachers just hadn't thought about that in the moment. But the best thing, Jen, about that process is the conversations that take place as teachers are putting up those strategies. And so there's a little bit of debate that goes on about whether they believe that that's tier 1, we do that for all, or if it's tier 2, we do that for some. And so that debate becomes a really fantastic conversation, really powerful in discussing practice. Clearly, that locus of control is really critical in both of these situations, because there are going to be things that are behind the behavior or attendance that really we can't impact, but clearly identifying, what are the things that we can. So we don't say we can't control that. We can't make that child come to school. But what can we control, or what can we do? Because there are things still that we can do as a team, as a school, as a teacher, to be able to support that student in their areas. And truly, this is about understanding each child and the situation that they're in, and being able to address those areas as they arise. But even beyond that, Jen, the beauty of our continuum of supports is that it's not one teacher at a time identifying a student that they're struggling with, and then, trying to figure out, what am I going to do to support them in those particular areas. But as a whole school, we now have created a number of ideas around supports and strategies that we could put in place. And so you're not in this alone. Your whole school is helping to formulate ideas and possibilities for students who are exhibiting those behaviors or attendance issues.